was talking to a guy on one of the dating apps, and he's a musician, so he was asking me, like, he's like, oh, what else do you do? And I was like, oh, I also have a podcast, which I still feel weird about telling people.
Like, everybody has a podcast.
Yeah, well, that and just, I'm not good at the self-promotion.
Yeah, but...
And it feels awkward. And then I'm like, wait, if I
but
tell
you're
him...
so good at it.
Thank you. His level sounded great. But I also am like, if I tell him I have one, then he's going to ask me the name of it, and then he's going to go listen to it. And then, like, he's going to listen to it before we meet.
Yeah.
And it's odd when someone's like, oh, listened to that conversation. Like, I just haven't sunk into it yet.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
But I will.
You've had it for, what, a year?
On and off for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I have almost 30 episodes out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit,
Which I didn't even realize I'd done that many until I was like...
That's awesome.
Redoing the website, and I'm going to start launching again in September.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm getting like episodes ahead.
Okay.
Because at one point I was 8 weeks ahead. Like I had 8 episodes.
Oh, shit. So
done
you're
and
just
ready.
like, ready to go.
And I was all excited about it. And then I formatted the wrong thing and I wiped all of it out. Like I was trying, it was terrible.
Oh.
And then I went through this whole big, like, should I even be doing this? Is this the universe telling me that I suck? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I just have one of those moments where you're like, is this meant to happen? I don't know.
Like, I'm like, if it was meant to happen, it should be easy, right? And it's
no, that's not how it's usually not how it goes, actually. It's the complete opposite, really.
Yes.
Such is life.
So,
yes.
Well, y'all, welcome. I'm already chatting with my friend Danielle here because we can't help it.
No.
Welcome to the pod, Danielle.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
So good. I'm so excited to have you. Because the first time we sat down to talk about this was, I think, well over a year ago.
It was. Yeah. Yeah, we had a meeting about it a while ago.
Yeah. I was looking for all my notes from that conversation this morning, and I couldn't find them anywhere. And I'm like,
same.
What did I do with them? Like, I was like, I know I only have had these 2 notebooks for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I have a page that says Danielle Prep.
Yeah.
And it looks like I was going to...
We had a whole breakfast about it.
I know. So it looks like I was going to rewrite all my notes in it.
Yeah.
But I must have pulled them out to put them on that page, and then I have no idea.
Oh, well, I guess we're just freewheeling it then.
We are. But that's okay, because
I like it.
I can freewheel with you anytime.
Yes. I'm here for it.
So well, I want to get into, like, I know where I want to go with our conversation, and I'm excited that I can now speak to something that we're going to talk about.
Yay.
But first, give us a little bit about who you are and how you ended up on the island.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm born and raised in the East Bay, but I hadn't really spent much time in Alameda until I moved here. I'm originally from Fremont mostly, but lived all around Oakland, Hayward, San Jose, so just... every area code, basically.
You are the East Bay.
I am the East Bay. And then a little bit of San Francisco, too. I lived there for a long time, up until COVID. And that was very much home. But I also knew when I lived there that if I had to leave the city, that I would probably not be able to afford coming back. And so that's kind of the mindset I left with. And I ended up in the Central Valley for a little bit. Which was an experience in and of itself. It's a different world. The San Joaquin Valley, for anybody who's not familiar, is in between here and Fresno. Okay. And so it's an interesting place.
Is it super rural?
It's very rural. So compared to how diverse and like just compacted by per square mile and people the Bay Area is, that's the opposite there. It's very much Trump country. So it's a different world. But I found my niche there. And so I moved back to the Bay Area when the opportunity arose to go back to bartending in San Francisco as things started to reopen from COVID. And eventually found my way to Alameda because it was a nice little spot I found on Craigslist that I thought was a scam because they said this is too good to be true. I was like, wait, cheap rent, utilities included. And like all these amenities in the neighborhood, which led me to meeting you actually. Yes. And
do you think I was listed as an amenity?
I mean, I think so. It was actually, I mean, I used to go in there on my Sundays, so that's when we were there. Yep. And we're talking about the fireside.
Yeah. I was going to say, because were you living here when you first? Yeah, you had just moved to the island.
Just moved to the island. Yeah. And so I started frequenting the fireside. I would go generally, I guess, on not all Sunday. Well, I don't work at that job anymore. So Sundays, I would go home and take a nap, and then, but she doesn't do that anymore. I don't work Sundays, so that's nice. So I've lived here for almost 3 years.
Wow.
So yeah, next month will be 3 years. It's kind of wild.
That is wild.
Time flies, and it feels like there's just been so much that's happened in those 3 years too, because it's in the post-COVID world and kind of finding a niche and a home with folks here now in a place that even being from the East Bay, I just wasn't familiar with. But it's nice, and we have a lot of great stuff, even just on our little hood over here in the West End. So
we do, yeah. It's like I'm super excited to be moving back over that way, even though I'll still be like kind of way out on the point.
Yeah,
but like just kind of being, I don't know. There's something about the West Side that I like. I mean, I like the whole island.
Yeah,
like I mean,
it's very charming.
Yeah,
it sucks you in. It's nice.
It really does. Like the first year I was here, it was COVID, so everything was shut down.
Oh yeah.
And then things started to open up, and then I was like, maybe I'll move. Like you know, like Austin's really coming up, and that was like another place that I had thought about a lot. And there's something that has kept me here. That I'm like, no, I think I'm just not done with Alameda yet or the Bay.
There's something about it. I mean, and it's close enough to the city and far enough from there. Like, I mean, you can peek out on your patio and you can see the beach where you can see the view of the city. And I love San Francisco, but it's also nice to take my time if I do want to go visit. I'll just take the ferry over, take a little day trip, and come back. Yeah, that's all I need.
It's just like the energy. You know what I mean? Like you come across on the ferry, or you go like through the tube, and you're just like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's something really nice. I mean, I have a really beautiful like bamboo bush outside of my window. Oh, nice. Like some things in my apartment leave something to be desired because it's an old building. But there's this lovely bamboo bush, and it's so quiet on Sunday afternoons. So it's like perfect like meditating or taking a nap, and it's just I love it here. Yeah, it's so nice. It's the little things.
So you were a bartender for a long time, but you went to college.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to figure out how we got to where I wanted to go.
Oh, fair enough. My career transition. Yeah. So it happened during 2020. As a lot of things in that paradigm shift of a time did. I've been in the industry. I mean, I still have a toe in it. It's hard to leave. So I've met all the best people, such as yourself.
It is hard to leave.
And truly, like some of my lifelong friends, people that have really become like family, like people I've literally gone to weddings and funerals with. And it ties you, it bonds you to people in a different way. There's something special about the service industry that it taught me everything I needed to know about work ethic and just, being able to work as a team or kick ass on your own. I did that for a really long time. I ran the gamut of working in dive bars to managing like fine dining and working in Michelin star restaurants. And when COVID happened, that was the first time in my life I'd ever had to file for unemployment because I usually had at least one very full-time job or like 2 or 3. Like that's how I hustle.
Yeah. Wait, you worked in a Michelin star restaurant?
Yeah.
Was it as crazy as, have you watched The Bear?
Yes. There's definite moments where I'm like, oh, I can see how people are really like, yeah, there's a little PTSD. Yeah. Like it's so, I think it's stressful because parts of it are so realistic.
Right.
Like some of it is absurd. Because it's a television show,
right?
And you lean into that, but there's still some of it. I mean, like the place that I worked, I'll name drop it. It's been long enough. It's called Murad. They're in San Francisco on New Montgomery. I don't know if they still have their star, but the food's still phenomenal, and the cocktails, everything, it's great, and it's a beautiful, beautiful space. It's an old Pacific Bell building, and that place. It was similar, I could say. Like, and then I worked for, if anybody knows who Daniel Patterson is, he's just Google him. He's a lot, but that was a tough boss to work for. I managed a restaurant for him as well. And so, and then I decided to go back to bartending because it's a lot more money and you can choose your hours a little bit better.
You can tell people to fuck off.
But
that's my favorite part.
Yeah. But then to like circle back, I mean, I didn't see myself necessarily leaving the industry. I did want to go back to school for like business management and operations and really like get more of a handle on it. So, because, everybody wants to open their own bar. And then people are like, oh, well, you want to open your own bar? You want to make money? I was like, nobody does this to make money. You do it because you love it.
Right.
Like you love building community and friendships. And like, that's really what it's been for me. And so I've also known people who've taken it all over the world because it's especially prior to COVID. I mean, that's what you could do with it. One of my best friends, she's been to like over 40 countries and she like did that in a lot of places, work exchanges. Right. And, so it was really a reality check as it was for most people. Everything shut down and it was just, well, what what do I do with myself? Like, I already I've always been kind of an outdoorsy person. It became more so during this time. It was really like I'd started shooting archery. I'd started going fishing a lot more. And so I'm like, well, I guess if this is the end of the world, I should learn some outdoor stuff. No, but I did find this program. One of the few useful things my ex did for me, actually. He brought up this program, and it was an online thing, though. So it's a vocational degree in forestry and wildlife conservation, and I finally finished it this last May. So yay, thank you. It took a while. I had to extend a couple of times, but I was, working full time and trying to get this thing done, and it covered a lot of different aspects. Everything from the study of large and small mammals and predators, and ichthyology, which is a study of fish, forest ecology, fire ecology, rangeland management, basically all the stuff that you could use and you could apply to many facets of this field.
Right. Hold on, I just want to say one thing too. Also, like, don't cut yourself down by being like, oh, I had to extend a few times, and like, you did it. Like,
I did it.
Story.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, I think we all get into that, like, but I think it's important for everyone to like take a minute and like, no.
Yeah.
You did it. Like the amount of people that start stuff and don't finish it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you did finish it, and it took you longer because you are balancing life and relationships and work and bills and like just the stress of being a woman, and never mind you're a Black woman and everything else that's been going on, and post pandemic, and you know what I mean? Like there's all of those things that are always on you. So like, don't do that anymore.
I'll take my flowers. I appreciate that.
Take them all. And I really want to make sure, like, I keep trying to do that when I hear someone do it. And because not only is it like good to remind you, it's good to remind myself. Like, because I do that too. Like, when you came in here, I'm like, oh, I don't have my cameras yet. Like, if I didn't say anything to you,
this room is dope, though. I can't wait to get your cameras and everybody can see it because it's awesome. I know your weed wall is so great. I love it so much.
Someone was here. Not someone, but Amos, who is forest, he's the tree guy.
Oh, yeah.
Amos White, and his 10,000 Trees for Humanity. And he was like, you have a living wall. And I was like, it's plastic.
I'm sorry, but at least it's repurposed.
He was like, no, but this even gives your body like the feeling of being outside and being in nature.
Greenery, absolutely.
Yeah, and
it's very peaceful. It's very calming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And as a forestry person, you know this.
That is my happy place. I went on a very long hike yesterday through the Oakland Hills, and we'll circle back to all the things. But so there's a lot of beautiful stuff here in the East Bay that we take for granted because some of it's really tucked. But I went to, I'm forgetting the name of the park. It was Joaquin Miller, near the Chabot Space and Science Center, which I loved as a child and I still want to go to because it's so dope. But yeah, I went on a little 6.5 mile hike.
Nice.
I needed it. I needed to get back out there and start doing that more because I haven't as much.
Yeah. My friend Peppy took me to Chabot one day, and she was like, it's not bad. There's only one hill. And when we're going up like our fourth up, straight up, I'm like, bitch, one hill?
45-degree angle. I was like,
and like, we're both like hiffing and hawing, and like, I'm like, I hate you. Right now. I mean, we did it, and at the end, of course, it was awesome. And I was like, we need to do this more.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, I got the view. I get to,
Yeah, you get the reward of it.
Yes.
And like coming down is just as hard, but easier.
Oh, yeah.
You can lean
into gravity a little bit.
I'm worried about my knees though. Like, am I too old for this shit?
No. I started taking like vitamins with like collagen and stuff in them too because I messed my knee up when I was a kid, and so like messed up ACL and MCL. Not a lot of cartilage left in that one. So
knees over toes is exercises. There's a guy on Instagram that does them, and they really help.
Alrighty,
I have bad knees too, but I was in car accidents.
That's true. Well, I've been hit by cars. That's terrible.
Me too.
Yeah, really, me too. So we promise we will circle back to the nature thing, but we're just off on a tangent here.
Always, that's what podcasts
I love it so much. But yeah, no, but really that also, it does all circle back into, I mean, for what I did this summer, for all of the education that I finally like got all this completed in this time. I did a lot of volunteer work because it was online. And speaking of wanting to be outside and needing to get hands-on experience, my first volunteer thing that I did, I was out for a walk and to do homework at when I was living in the Central Valley, because that's, pardon me, where there is a massive wildlife refuge complex. It's the San Luis National Wildlife Refuge Complex. Not many people know about it. I didn't grow up in the Bay Area my whole life. I was like, there's nothing in the valley except like cow shit, and it's hot as hell, and like people move there because it's cheaper. But you also have Stockton. No, nobody from Stockton don't come for me, please, please. Anyways, have you been there? Then you would know. Anyways, no, it's a really great wildlife refuge. And I was there one day and I saw these guys who were I think they were putting like a fence post or something. I was like, hey, do you guys have any information about like volunteering and stuff? And lo and behold, one of the assistant refuge managers was there. And so I got his information, and essentially I just kept bugging him until he gave me something to do. I was like, I need this experience. Like I'm not, it isn't accredited school, because I made sure before I give him my money.
Smart. Yeah, do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. And so I ended up, the very first volunteer thing I did with any wildlife, I got to help vaccinate riparian brush rabbits, which are an endangered species, and they're endemic to the San Joaquin Valley.
Oh.
And so it really, like, it was just holding on to them and like tagging their ears, and the vets did the actual vaccinations. Right. I was like, I'm just gonna hold this. I'm not gonna. They asked me at one point, they're like, do you want to try? I was like, no, I don't want to be the one that I will never have me volunteer with you again. Like, we don't need to do all that. But then I also got to band mourning doves out there as well.
That's fun.
So yeah, and that's a delicate process. It's a little tiny leg, and so it really just like, I fell more and more in love with it, and then I got to spend a lot of time in the Sierras and in nature in 2020 and 2021, because that was that's the longest I've been unemployed since I've been working. And I started working when I was like 16, 17. And I had just turned 30 right before the world shut down. So I was like, this is my decade. Oh, fuck. We'll see what happens.
The university's like, not yet.
Yeah. So there was a point where in my little VW Golf that I had at the time, I always had like a fishing pole or two. I still actually in my car now, I have a tackle box in my trunk. I keep my tents in my trunk. I have all this stuff. I'm kind of ready to go.
Nice.
But yeah, and it kind of just shifted my perspective. But it is a very tough line of work to get into, especially if you're starting over in your 30s. Right. And a lot of these jobs that are starting out are temp jobs. And so you really have to, and I mean, especially because the field is not diverse, so you really do have to push your way in. I kind of have the advantage of my name on a resume, and how I write a resume is not what people would expect when they see me. Because I've definitely gone in interviews where they're like surprised. They're like, wait, let me look at this again. Are you sure this is who we called, right? Okay. And so
that's so fucked up.
Dude, I volunteered with with California state parks for a long time as well. And one place that I volunteered at, wonderful place. I don't really want to name it because I don't want it to sound bad, because the place itself is wonderful. But the majority of the volunteers are old, rich, retired white people, and it's because they have the time.
Right.
And like, I just remember there was one time, because we would lead tours for the public, and so there was one time we were going through one of the areas in these sand dunes, and this area is traditionally Korosti Indian land, Korosti Native Indigenous people land. Sorry, I don't want to misnomer or anything. I'm also of Indigenous descent. I don't want to be that asshole. But in this area of the Central Coast, and there are these things that they have them in Emeryville and Berkeley and stuff, the shell mounds, the middens.
Okay.
And these things are of historical and cultural, all of this importance, spiritual importance. And so there's some of those there. So you obviously aren't walking through that with people. And I just remember I'm paraphrasing, but the way this guy said, I grew up in Fremont, which is Ohlone, Lisjan land, all of that. And I said Ohlone the way they pronounce it. And he goes, Ohlone, and just like corrects me in front of these people. And I was just like, thank you for that microaggression. And there's so much of that in this. And it doesn't happen all the time. And I think sometimes it's not intentional necessarily. But it's also just because there's not a lot of us in these spaces. And so I'm working to change that. Like that's the end goal with all of this. So that's the be all and end all. That's why I did this summer camp only a couple of weeks ago, really. But I did a volunteer day for that same organization, the San Francisco Bay Wildlife Society. Donate, you should. It's a great organization. But we work in conjunction with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at the Don Edwards National Wildlife Refuge in Fremont, or in that unit of the refuge.
Okay.
So there's actually, it's the largest urban wildlife refuge in the country. It spans 3 counties. So it's San Mateo County, Alameda County, and Santa Clara County. And so we were able to put on this camp for 60 kids, 1st through 6th grade. And, like there's a lot of diversity because they pull from the community. It's mostly a lottery. And so that was really cool. And I think it was also really cool for some of them to see somebody who looks like them.
Right.
Because that doesn't seem to happen too often. Just in general, I mean, the applicants that you get in these fields, because a lot of people, again, if you don't see yourself doing that, then,
how do you know you
how do you know you can? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're bringing like
Doing
the
all the
black girl
things.
magic to the camping.
I'm trying. It's been a journey. It really has. There's been a lot that's gone into it. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing all this work to eventually have my own organization where I can do something regularly and do outreach and do more than, because a lot of these organizations, I mean, it's tough. I see that working with the one that I'm working with, to garner funding is very, very hard. It's very difficult. It's a lot of glad handing and schmoozing and getting the right people on your side and making them see that this is a worthy cause. And that's very hard to do because a lot of the people who are the purse holders are also the same people that don't care so much.
Right.
Well, because I got caught mouth.
Oh yeah, well they care about like themselves and their like, not to sound like it's not the same, because in my world, we're all people in the same community, but not everyone thinks like I do.
Yeah.
So like the rich white people are taking care of the rich white people.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that happen before in the world.
I don't know. How does
that's
that?
why every problem
America?
exists in our whole world.
Yeah.
But,
Colonialism's a motherfucker.
Yes.
And so, and so that's the other thing. I've had like mixed feelings about, working with some of these organizations, and I'm not knocking the Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm not knocking the Department of Interior. These are the 2 least funded. If people are concerned, especially where our money goes government wise and why it doesn't go to these agencies and departments that could do more outreach and do more education, then, maybe look at where your taxes are going, because the Department of Interior is one of the least funded departments. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has had their budget slashed repeatedly over the last few years. And so they can't even hire people. And so they don't have the rangers. They don't have the education folks. And it's really difficult to continue these programs. And so then it's kind of like, well, that's great that we have these wildlife refuges for the purpose of, they are protecting endangered species. It's the whole reason they're all created. But if you're not doing outreach to these communities, or you're not doing outreach to specific communities, because we were basically not allowed to be a part of these things for so long, then I think it's a failure to everybody, really. Because, I mean, the earth will be fine at the end of the day. It's selfishly, I'm a little worried about humanity and us being able to take care of the planet. So that's where my mindset is at. And after doing this summer camp this last year, to see the excitement on the kids' faces and to see how much they care, and also for them to recognize, I mean, these are all kids who went through COVID. Like, you have 1st graders, they might have been 2, but the last 4 years of their life have been affected by it.
Right.
And then the kids who are going into, later years in elementary school or in high school, if it had such a profound effect on us as adults, can you imagine like not being able to be at a point where we can't regulate our emotions all the time. Like, you can only expect so much of children, but there's so much wisdom kids can actually teach you with a lot of things. But they're a generation that's very cognizant of the problems in the world. Right. And they will probably, I hope, will do a lot better than a lot of us. So I'm just trying to do my part, man. And I think it's on all of us to really try and do it. Even if it's, we all use plastic bags every now and again. We all do, there's little things. We're not the corporations causing all of the problems, but we can do what we can, or at least, impart our knowledge in a way that is beneficial is the way I look at it. So
how did you, because you had to be into like camping and fishing and stuff before you started this class, but what was your introduction? Like what got you into the outdoors? Do you remember? Was it something you always did?
I would say not something I always did. My family wasn't huge on it, really. I think we were like, so to preface this, like my dad grew up of a generation where it just wasn't really their thing. He was much older. He was born before World War II. So if he was alive, he'd be 88. So that just for him, that just wasn't something they did, especially being from the South. He didn't just go into the woods and, you know, hope everything turns out okay. And so, no, but, I mean, but he was still very country. Like he was on a sharecropper's farm before they came to California. So he could handle himself, but it wasn't something that we did.
Right.
As far as like my mom and my stepdad goes, my stepdad liked to go camping. He was also pretty country. He grew up in like Fairfield, Suisun City area. But my mom wasn't a fan, so there was no real compromise on that. And so that kind of stopped, I think probably when I was around like 8 years old or so. But I was always obsessed with Animal Planet. I grew up watching The Crocodile Hunter. And then just, you know, Our Planet. And I still to this day, I collect National Geographics. Like that was a dream job of mine as a child. I really wanted to be a nature photographer for National Geographic. It's still not too late. You know, there's always time. But yeah, there's just always, and I grew up around animals and stuff too. And so as I got older, I kind of made a point to start spending more time outside. But it wasn't really, probably not until 2020, because I was living in San Francisco. And so, I mean, and when you live in the city, and at that point in time for me, where I was in my life and where I was with working in the bar scene and the restaurant scene, it really, you didn't leave the city unless you like really needed to leave San Francisco.
Right.
And not knocking my time there. And I love it so much. It's still, you know, holds a very special place in my heart. But I've grown beyond that person that I was then now. And there's something quite peaceful about not being in the middle of all this shit all the time. And if there's one thing I really miss about 2020, not that, you know, it wasn't a terrible year. But there was no traffic. You could get up to the mountains very quickly and you could go and be like outside, but not be around anybody. And it was so peaceful and so nice. And so, not to say that running into people in the woods is like the worst thing ever, but there's
Just
something to be said about reconnecting. Yeah, you know, I will still pick the bear. If anybody's wondering, I will still pick the fucking bear, dude.
When
all
that
day.
whole thing happened,
I've been alone in the woods with the bear. I will pick the bear.
When that happened, I couldn't believe like the outrage that happened. That men were so
those
mad.
Those are the guys that were.
I mean,
those are the ones, dude.
But even there were some women that like, could you believe that? I'm like, yeah, have you not been assaulted?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, are you in that like 20%? 2%? Ma'am, even then, are you just in severe denial? Because no, thank you. Yes. No, I'm good. I will absolutely pick the bear. The bear doesn't want anything to do with you unless you got food in its way. Now, I'm speaking of black bears. Yeah, the food. I'm speaking of black bears. I haven't been in grizzly country, but still, just be bear aware. That's another thing. Because I've gone camping on my own. I love going camping on my own, actually. I think it's fucking awesome. You won't do it? Oh, you got to go glamping. That's right. We had this conversation.
I went.
You're like, I need to shower. That's just be near a body of water. You're fine.
I had
just
my first somewhat camping experience.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, yay.
So, in case you haven't heard me talk about this before, I had never been camping. My aunt says once when I was young, but I think like maybe for a night, but like never.
Not like a whole few days, yeah.
So I went camping for the first time, but it was glamping because there was porta potties, there was showers that had like little hot heaters.
I don't go to places that don't have a bathroom. I'm not like digging a hole. Like if I had to, if I was in the back country, you know, that sort of thing, I could. Right. I was prepared. Like 2020, girl, I was ready to like bug out. I was like, that's why I kept everything in my car. I was like, I'm out this bitch. I'm ready to go. If the world falls into shambles, I started shooting archery. I have ammo I can reuse, bro. Okay.
I am not prepared at all. I barely have plants.
Oh.
I grew up in the city. It wasn't like, I mean, we have a small yard at my parents' house. Like I wasn't like concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And like my parents have gardened and stuff, but like I never.
Well, that's not.
Like that was old people thing. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't doing that.
Like I wasn't out there with the green thumb and doing the thing.
And my dad was not taking us camping. One, you have to buy all this shit so you can sleep outside, and then you have to buy all the shit so you can go pay to sleep outside. And then like you don't have running water or anything like that.
Yeah,
and like
that's
there's
fair.
nothing to distract your kids from anything. You can't send them to a different room because then they get eaten by something. You know what I mean? Like they were just not about it.
Yeah,
like it was
fair.
just
It's not for everybody.
Yeah. We went to like a cabin in like not really the woods, but like on a lake, and it was like
Well, you know,
it was like
area.
it was like a shitty cabin in the woods. Like the walls were all just like plywood.
Oh,
like you could
nice.
see between some of them, could hear everything.
Well, you
But
know,
it had a
keeps
bathroom.
keeps it cool. Hey, as long as there was running
Yeah.
water, you're good.
Yeah.
You know, do you know how to build a fire?
I mean, yes. In theory, I was a Girl
In theory.
Scout.
Oh, you
So,
should know
like,
how to build a fire.
There are some things like I know, but have I
Yeah.
ever put it into practice since I was
in
like
theory,
11?
it's a yes.
No.
Yes. So in theory, it's a yes.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, that's fair.
But like when I went camping, I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. Like sleeping in a tent was great. But when I went, we like was a camp out, so it was
Yeah.
it was like a music festival kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah, absolutely. And then but like we were all camped in like
Alright.
little sections.
Okay.
So like there was people within I could reach out my tent and touch other people's
Yeah,
tents.
yeah, I got
people I
you.
knew, people I didn't,
Yeah.
you know? So it didn't really feel like you were in the woods. It felt
Yeah.
like you were in like
You're at
a
a party.
sleepover
Yeah,
in someone's
exactly.
backyard that just happened to be really big.
That's fair.
So I would
Okay.
like to go more adventurous
Okay.
camping.
Yeah.
But like I still need a walk to bathroom and
No,
shower. and
absolutely.
then I'll slowly graduate, you know? Like I was
It
thinking
takes
about going
time.
to the burn, but then I'm like, I don't know if I could do 10 days.
Dude, I couldn't do the burn. I couldn't do the whore bath for that long. I couldn't do no.
Like I was thinking maybe
That
I'll go
playa
for
disc.
4 or 5. That way,
Yeah.
like this year is my first year. I'll go for like
yeah.
half the time and make sure I could survive it. And then next year I'll go and maybe I'll be bougie and get a trailer or something.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I actually saw a buddy of ours, his Facebook post that he is there. I was like, that is a fabulous outfit. But no, I haven't had the desire to do. I used to, but I just don't party like that no more either. So I'm like, I don't know if I could hang the whole time in that heat and in outfits and doing the whole thing in the dust. No.
I would definitely. They have saunas there.
Oh,
There's camps that set up saunas and kind of
often
different
do they
things.
clean those out?
Well, they have to like it's every
time?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
good.
there was I watched a whole documentary on it. So I was like, I would be
She's
going
prepared.
visiting every one of those, you know, because not only is it my love of the sauna,
Yes.
but also like I would get to be clean.
That's fair. That's fair. I
Because you
know.
sweat it off.
I need to go to your Russian bathhouse with you.
I will take you anytime.
Yes.
I'll be there
I'm
all day
so
tomorrow.
down. Hey,
First Tuesday of the
girl.
month is ladies' night. So if you want to
Oh.
introduce yourself slowly,
That's good to know.
yeah, first
Okay.
Tuesday of the month is always ladies' night, and
Noted.
that sometimes is easier for people to integrate into.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, walking in and seeing a bunch of guys and they're naked can be a little, shocking.
oh, hey, everybody.
It's amazing though how people think I'm crazy when I talk about going there for so many reasons. But when I tell people, like after a while, you kind of don't even realize it.
You just don't even
like
notice it.
I'll like.
Just
There's a
like
bunch of guys that I
blinders.
hug all the time. Like like I'll be in the sauna, they'll come in, and we're like, oh, how are you? And you hug, and like some people look at you a little sideways, and like depending on how well you know the person, it's
Yeah,
like the
that's
side
fair.
hug or like
Yeah.
the curved hug
The
kind
little,
of
like little
yeah,
arm
the
around the
side
shoulder,
hug.
the little
Yeah, but there's a few of the guys that like whenever I see them, we are like, you know,
Hey,
straight
come
hugging.
on.
Like we love it. Like
Hey.
you know, and it's similar to the bar industry when you like, because your relationships are on a different level. You know what I mean? When you're sitting in 200 degrees together
Yeah.
and you're just sweating and you're like, you know, let me talk about something so I can stay in here a little longer, or let
Yeah.
me like stop talking because I'm gonna like, you know, I want to make it like 15 extra seconds or what, you know, 3 minutes, whatever your kind of timing is. It changes like the way you interact with people.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I was talking to my boss today about trips for next year and trips for
are you
this year.
planning it out. I love it so much.
Yeah. I will
okay.
bring anyone there almost any time, unless you don't like to sweat, and then please don't come with me.
I'm already a naturally sweaty person, so might as well just get out the toxins, you know, just let it go, like that movie. I'm not even start saying that song. It's gonna be stuck in both our heads.
No, all I want to do.
No.
But yeah, and we're actually going to do a retreat center up in Grass Valley.
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
we'll be doing like
Oh, hey, girls.
we
sign me up.
got well, not we, my boss and the company.
Yeah.
why extension. But we're going to open a retreat center. So we're going to do a
so
sauna up in the woods. And that way we can do like sauna and forest bathing and like some kind of possibly some like farm stuff too.
Well, if you need somebody for some workshops, girl.
Yes, I will. Oh yeah, you're on my list. Don't worry.
Oh yay, perfect.
I always keep a running list.
I
of
love
like,
this so much.
Can I like?
I will, and like after, I'm going to circle back again to this program this last summer. Like the job title was very misleading, as was the pay scale, and all these things, because I think they were expecting, and generally speaking, they do hire kids and I'm in my mid 30s. I'm not saying that an 18, 19-year-old isn't capable if they're having their hand held, but this was also not that. And it was a very different, it was like, oh, I really need you to build an entire curriculum. I need you to do this. And there's scheduling and logistics and all of these things. And actually the last day of camp, we had folks from the Tamian Nation, who are the indigenous people of the Santa Clara Valley, because that's another portion of the unit is on their ancestral lands.
Okay.
And so they came and had the kids do a craft. They made these little like Thule reed dolls, which was really dope.
Oh, nice.
And so it was just, it was really cool to like be able to have that hand in it. And there were times where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do all this. And then I'm like, oh, reminder, you used to like manage adults. Like this can be easier. This is, or not easier, but it gives you that background. And so, one of the restaurants I managed, I scheduled like 50 people, and it was all the front of house people. And it was like essentially 3 separate restaurants in one. So I was like, if I could do that, and I was like 28, then, I had a little more experience nowadays. I can make this work. And all the kids were happy. It turned out beautifully. And so it's given me a lot of confidence in being able to do that and really like set it up, because I built binders for the kids who were the camp counselors, so they had everything that they needed to be prepared. They had all the scripts they needed, they had their scheduling, they had questions and also like a behavioral expectations as well. So there's of these. It was very in depth. There was a lot more to it.
You probably but you also probably thought so much more of what they were expecting, like because you have a high standard, you know what I mean? And like you have a pride in what you're doing. And
absolutely.
You have like that intention is to help get these kids really into it. And so that they'll grow up wanting to learn more and support it more. So like your intentions probably were like, you read it and your mind kind of jumps to all the things that you should do.
Yeah.
Instead of like what they were probably expecting was like so little.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like they want to have you back for, you know.
I took such meticulous notes. I even like surprised myself for certain things, because like we had so many meetings and so many, like it was a lot of planning for only 3 days. But at the end of the day, it also was really like, okay, I thought I could do this before. Now I know I can do this. And so that's really exciting. So the more that I can, get my feet wet. One of the other random jobs, not a lot of kids like want to be a teacher, but I used to want to be an English professor.
Nice.
Super random. Or an Egyptologist. So those are my top 3. And so, so I've always had this love of just wanting to spread knowledge, because it's very important that's the one thing that, no matter what happens, that's something that can't be taken from you, really. And so with my education experience growing up, I didn't have a traditional way of getting my diploma and going to school and doing all of these things. And so, however I can help people in general, kids or adults, like learn in a different type of way, like I'm all about that. So
and I think it's important, like everyone learns different. It's important to like remember that and to know it. Like I sometimes get frustrated because I am not a book person. Like if you give me a book and you're like, hey, this whole book is like the secret to the universe, I will be like hemming and hawing and like trying and avoiding it and sitting down to do it and being like squirrel, and then like just sitting down to try to do it and just be like falling asleep, and it's just not my way to learn. And I kind of hate that sometimes, but I know like, oh, if I can find that book on an Audible, or if I can find like synopsises of it by like a bunch of different people where I can get like the biggest ideas of it, then I'm usually fine. Great. Like, and I pick it up and then I'll remember it. Yeah.
And that's the key. I really think too, because like I I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty smart person. Toot
it, girl, toot it
all day. Let me toot it. No, I am. I just didn't. Again, I didn't go through high school in the traditional way, and that unfortunately has a huge impact on how things can happen later in life.
Can you say more about that, or would you?
Yeah. So the the larger portion of my childhood, I grew up in Fremont.
Okay.
And so I went to the same school, elementary school, junior high, and then my freshman year of high school, my mom wanted to move up to Washington State. And so we did, which was also a culture shock because we moved to an island in Puget Sound. So it was like, here, you've never had to you walk to school your whole life. It's down the street. You've gone to school with these kids forever.
Right.
Grew up doing drama, playing sports, doing all this stuff. And now you're, 8 miles outside of town on this cold ass island where it's wet all the time. And it's just, and it's beautiful. Don't be wrong. Whidbey Island is absolutely gorgeous. I would go back there. I don't know if I could live in the Pacific Northwest because I'm California spoiled with the weather, girl. I don't know. It's too wet and cold and gray for me to be up there all the time. But, no, so I lived up there. And because of our lovely education system in this country, curriculums vary state by state, county by county, all of these things. So we ended up moving back to California my sophomore year. During that time, there's another portion of that, but I was having troubles growing up with the mom that I had. And with, she's still alive. I shouldn't talk about her like she's deceased. We just don't talk. The woman who is more of a mom to me is my best friend's mom. I love you, Leah. So that being said, we had a tumultuous time, right? Without getting too deep into it. That could be a whole other episode, girl. Trust on that. But long story short, and this was before I ever did any real drugs. I smoked weed and drank beer and was nothing, whatever. I was raised in a really evangelical Christian home. And so, you either go one way and you're fully into the brainwashing and at this point too, I was also still figuring out that I was bi. And so I'm rebelling in these other ways. And so I just, and she had me on, she was one of those 90s moms that had me on a lot of prescription pills as well. And so not just Ritalin and the usual suspects, but a whole bunch of shit. And so I would occasionally try to stop taking them because they made me feel worse than it did when I wasn't on them. But because the way prescription pills or any drugs work, your body goes through withdrawals. Yeah. And so I remember I was over at a friend's house for a few days and then I didn't want to come home. Long story short, I ended up at this group home in Castro Valley for a couple of days. And then she decided that I was going to, it's a little jumbled. It was a long time ago, but I think from there I was hospitalized again. And then from there, I got sent to a residential treatment facility in Idaho, my last quarter of my sophomore year of high school. And so oddly enough, Paris Hilton of all people is the one who's bringing this to the forefront now. But there's a whole industry for troubled teens. Yep. And the profit that because that was one of the worst experiences of my life. It didn't solve anything. It was terrible. It was, again, that could be a whole other episode too. That's a whole other thing. And it's wild how that impacted me. That was when I was 16 years old. Right. And so it impacted me to a point where I ended up going to continuation school because not all my credits translated. Right. I went to school in 3 different states.
Well, not only that, your whole personal life was sounds like just over. A minefield of one of those issues fucks kids up. Never mind having them all compounded on each other. Yeah. And then I can't even, if it was anything like the place that Paris Hilton went, and I can imagine it kind of the thoughts of that is just. Yeah. It was really, and to think of it now, I kind of wonder how many of the kids that I was in there, well, now they'd be adults, but how many of those people are still around, right? Frankly. Yeah. Which is really, really sad. There were a lot of kids who were indigenous, and who were in there for already having, what I was in there for didn't even seem like shit. It was really, you don't get along with your parents basically. And mind you have kids who are 14 years old and have already tried fucking heroin. Right. And obviously there are extremes to that, but because they'd be on Medicaid, it was a place, it's hard to describe it really. It's if you had One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but with a bunch of teenagers. Yeah. It's basically kind of the best way I can put it. And it was very hard to come back and, then people are asking questions of what happened to you at the end of the school year, all this stuff. And so that had an impact. And so I went from that experience to coming back to my junior year and then being told, oh, well, because I went to go change the time of a
class that I was taking. I was taking fashion merchandising.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh, I just want to go change the time of my class and switch it around, whatever. And I remember my counselor telling me, oh, by the way, you don't have enough credits to be a junior. And I was like, well, that would have been nice to know before I went through like orientation, and we're now like a month into the school year, and what the hell? Good old No Child Left Behind. This is why it's good to pay attention to politics forever. It's true.
Yeah,
thanks,
it's very
Bush.
true.
But yeah, and so they were just, signing the paperwork to get you through the school. And so I ended up in continuation school from there, where I actually met one of my best friends. She's still one of my best friends. I'm going to see her on Sunday. And she's solid. She's kicking ass in the world. She's a business owner. She's a homeowner. So fuck anybody's misconceptions about people who go to these schools. Yeah. Doesn't make you any less in society or any less intelligent. There's just a preconceived notion that if you end up there, it's like, oh, you must have done something. And it's like, no, sometimes life just shits on you growing up. And so you end up in these situations. And then from there, I went to Job Corps, which is a government-run vocational program. It's run by the Department of Labor. As far as I know, it still exists in some facets. I ended up on Treasure Island in San Francisco, which was a double-edged sword. Being 16, 17, and you're like basically living in San Francisco without real adult supervision. And it's fucked up age range to have together. It's 16 to 24, which you have like kids with adults. And that's weird.
I don't know if it was actually Job Corps, if it was something else. We called it the Red Shirts. I forget what the name of it really was, but it was a similar program in Boston where like you could join it after high school and do it in between college.
You just
and
said after. I love it.
Sometimes my accent slips
out. Talking about home.
But I wanted to do that because like then they also gave you like money towards school for college and stuff. And I was like, I really wanted to do that because I like fucking hated high school. I didn't want to go to college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. High school was like 4 years of just struggling to get through it. Like just life was miserable. And one of the reasons my parents were like, no, was because my mother was like, I don't know if I want you hanging out with some 24-year-olds that haven't ever made it. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like that judgment of people. I'm like, how about I'm one of those kids that might not make it if you don't let me do that? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and then I was forced to go to college and I dropped out like 4 different times. So like,
and there are certain things that, again, to circle it back, it's certain ways are not for everybody. And like, I got into honors classes when I was going to my high school, my main high school, for a decent amount of time. I got into honors classes because of my test scores, not necessarily because of my grades. They're like, oh, you're really, really fucking smart. You just don't apply yourself. That's their favorite. You're so articulate, but you just don't apply yourself. Because I would read through like the course material in a day, and then I'd just be fucking bored.
Right.
And so then, I could go take a test without really cramming for it. And they're like, what? You haven't studied. You haven't turned anything in. And yet I'm like, well.
You're like, yeah, I'm smart, bitches.
Exactly. I
don't conform to your world.
And so it was just, and that was also at the time, particularly in California, where they started bringing around a lot of like the standardized tests. And so that's what the teachers were forced to teach you. It wasn't really, really teaching you anything. Like, and again, that's not how I learned. I used to read almanacs and encyclopedias for fun as a child because that's
You're such a nerd.
such a nerd. And I
love a nerd.
And that's my jam, man. Like I feel like I've just always been like thirsty for knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something to be said. Sometimes I wonder, we can keep this in here or not, but sometimes I'm like, I'm a little bit on the spectrum, but I feel like everybody is a little bit. I feel like everybody kind of is a little bit.
I've been working on like a bit if I ever got up. If I ever get the balls to do stand up, one of them is like doing that. Like, if you think you're a little bit on the spectrum, you're probably not, but you probably are.
You probably are.
You know what I mean? Like,
you're just what they would call high functioning.
Yeah. Right? Holly said the other day, she's got a touch of the tism. And I'm like, oh, fuck, Holly, I love you. I'm like, I'm totally stealing that. I might make t-shirts. Like,
oh, buddy. Oh, my goodness.
And like, but all the time, I'm like, I must be. Because I've got some things that I'm like, that lines up with that person that I know is on it. Like,
well, and then I think like for women, we're always diagnosed later. There's always there's been a lot of that lately. And so I don't know, normal is a setting on the dryer. Anybody who I've ever met, and I'll say this over and over until I'm out of breath about it, the only people I've ever met who refer to themselves as like, well, I'm just normal, are the most psychotic or most idiosyncratic, neurotic people who are like, no, everything's fine. Like, no,
oh, so you've
just
met my
own
mom.
it.
No, I'm just kidding, Susan. I love you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I've always been like, oh, I'm a weirdo. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm all right.
it took me a long time to just get comfortable with it,
Yeah.
and it's working for me now. I've reached a point. I feel like, and this doesn't happen for everybody, but as I've gotten older, the less I really give a fuck what anybody else thinks. Like,
I'm still working on it. I still have like my people pleasing tendencies.
Oh, for sure.
And like I'm
It's
supposed
not
to
all
be
gone.
and like 12 years of
That's a
Catholic
lot
school. I have a lot of guilt. I have a lot of, none of which is actually mine. It's all like trained in my head.
Absolutely.
Or like a lot of, I'm supposed to act like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was also like,
that
was the way I was raised. It was like Catholic school, all of the things, my ex-husband, all of it, you know what I mean? Like everyone was always telling me like how to act,
you should be,
and how I'm supposed to act, and nowhere was I ever allowed to just be.
Yeah.
Like that's been one of my biggest things living in California is like, fuck it, you don't like me, that's fine, walk over there. Like, I've told this story one other time when I was someone, one of the people, I love you, Trey. He was very mad because someone was talking shit about me, and he was like, "Go over there," and I was like, "No, I don't care."
Yeah,
and he's like, "You better," and I was like, "I don't care about that person. I don't care what they're saying." And he's like, "But she's saying," I'm like, "I don't care." I'm like, "You should have met my aunt." Blah blah. I'm like, she was saying nastier shit right to my face, like, or while I was sitting next to her while she was ignoring me. Like, if I don't care about you in my life, like, I don't care what you say about me, like. And I have that so strong, except sometimes when I'm in the moment and I want someone to like me.
Dude, right. No, I hear you. I hear
the
you.
mental
Like,
gymnastics sometimes. When I'm like standing in a moment and someone's talking and I'm like, why do I want this person to like me so much?
Yeah. Why do I care?
And I'm like, no, where's the badass? Where's the badass?
Where's the, I know how to not give a fuck. Why is this not happening right now?
And I'm like, is that hormonal? Is that like, what is that?
Dude,
like,
I think it's many, many years of unlearning a learned behavior and things that were impressed upon you. Because I mean, like with my upbringing, there's a lot of that people pleasing, a lot of the like, I mean, it's a very complicated story with my mom, but like there's a lot of that, and I was her only daughter, or I am her only daughter, and so it's that's also in and of itself very complicated. And to preface it in this way too, like as the background that my dad came from, my mom is a 74-year-old white lady boomer from fucking Oregon. So like, pretty sure part of it is she married him to like piss her family off a little bit. But, but like, so, there was a lot of just things that she did. Like, we haven't talked since George Floyd. And so, and there's a lot of things to that. So I was going to protests, and there were things that I was talking to her about that like just kind of devolved from there. And she kind of made it about her white tears and not like the reality of what's going on, what's been going on. And I was just like, oh, I can't have this toxicity in my life. Like, I love you. I wouldn't exist without you. Like, that's very important that when people are like, you don't talk to her. And I was like, I don't hate her. I don't expound that energy to do that with anybody anymore. But I think that's been a big part of me being able to do that with other people as well. It doesn't happen all the time. Because there are times where I'm like, it's the minutia. Like, same thing you said. Why don't you like me? I want you to like me. And it's like, I just met this motherfucker. Why do I care so much?
Right. Yeah.
And so, it just takes a long time. I think it's a learning process your whole life. Like,
I think it's interesting what you just said though, about like, you love your mom, but you're not going to expend that energy. Cause I think that is, we get a little toxic in our world about like, well, that's your family. You have. No, you don't. Like my dad's family had a big falling out and it was over something kind of silly and non kind of existent even. Yeah. And then for a long time growing up, I had this guilt of not talking to part of my family and like feeling bad for him for not talking to his sisters and this stuff. And like, it bothered him a lot. But then at this one point when we saw them and we had like a kind of family crossover moment, it was just like, oh, I don't actually miss those people. I miss what they're supposed to represent and what they're supposed to be in my life. Exactly. But those people can't do that. And it's okay for me to be like, I wish you well, but I don't want you to sit at my table, right? Like,
absolutely.
It's like, I want you to eat, but not at my table.
Exactly.
Like, I steal that from Tupac.
I know, I was just going to say the same thing though. I was like, there it is. Yeah. Yep. No, but it's true. It's, it's just, I don't think I would have been able to grow in the way that I have with her still being like really, really in the picture, because I've tried multiple times to be the one to reach out, and then I really thought about it. And something she used to say about my dad when I was growing up was, and they got divorced when I was 2, so they were, as far as I was concerned, they were never together.
Right.
And so she used to say, oh, well, you know, he's the parent. If he wants to talk to you, then he can call or whatever. Well, ma'am, my number hasn't changed. She's not blocked, you know, but there's just not accountability. And it's not worth it to me. And so, you know, and it's a tough thing, but that's how I explain it to people sometimes too. Cause like you said, there are people who are just shocked. They're like, oh my God, how can you not? It's like, well, you know, it's just, I have other shit to do.
Well, that, and like,
you know,
also like, I love that other people get concerned, but it's also like, why are you concerned about what, like, does that tell me something about your life?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you wish you don't have to talk to your mom? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I think some people feel it's just out of obligation, and it's like, you know what I mean? And like, I've had those moments with my parents. I
never want my kids to feel that ever. If I have kids, I hope that I do, but I was just never, that would not, at least they show me what not to do, you know, and how not to. Like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, I've had moments in my life when I look at, and I'm just, my mom and I have just clashed, and I think like, do I really? And then at the end of the day, I'm lucky that I'm like, yes, because even with her faults, I understand as an adult now where she's coming from. But we have, and even now, sometimes we're on the phone, and I just am like, why do I do this to myself? You know, like, and I love her, and like, I want her, obviously, like, I keep that door open all the time, and like, you know, we're close. I'm lucky. But like, we've had moments where I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And like, when you were supposed to show up for me, you didn't. And like, and luckily I've had that conversation with her, and like, it's a hard thing to say. It's a hard thing for her to have to hear. It's a hard thing for you to want to have to say, you know what I mean? Like, all of that. But I've been like, and I know kind of how lucky I am, but there are other people in my life that I've been like, I just don't need to talk to that aunt anymore. I don't need to engage. I can miss that relationship. I can wish we had something different, but I don't have to like spin my wheels to like deal with the aftermath of it.
Absolutely.
Like, so I'm like, as much as it sounds fucked up, I'm happy that you have like that peace with it. And I think it's kind of inspiration for other people to be like, oh, wait, I can do that and not feel guilty about it. Yeah. Because also, like she used to say, she's the parent, let her reach out.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's, you know, and there have been times where I've felt a way about it. I'm like, oh, she's getting older, and so the other thing too. But like, you know, and this is a joke that I do make, and I say this because of the type of person that she is. So my dad made it to 74. She's now 74. And I was like, she's going to stay alive until she's 94 just out of fucking spite. Like, that's, I feel it. I feel it in my bones. It's fine. And no, and I mean, like, I don't wish any ill, and I don't waste the energy to do that either, because what's the point? Because then they don't know that. It's the same, you know, the I want to say it's a Buddhist proverb where, you know, it's like holding on to hatred is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. Right. And all it does is harm you. So, you know, there's enough poison and terrible shit in the world that we all take in on a daily basis that like, why hold on to that? And it takes a lot of work. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm far from it. You know, we all have our fucking days. But, Amen. You know, it's still at the end of the day, that energy is much better put to use doing something positive with it. Or, you know, if you do feel a way, go scream into your pillow, or go out somewhere and scream in the middle of the woods, you know? And it's healthy to let it out. It's still healthy to feel emotions. It's not, I'm not saying push your feelings down and ignore it if you have issues with your family. But you do what works for you. You see a therapist. Therapy is wonderful.
Forest space.
Yes, exactly. All the things, you know, I don't want to say I was like super in a mood yesterday, not in a mood, but I was just like, I was tired. I was feeling a way about like recharging. And then I was like, oh, it's a blue moon. It's a super moon, and it's an Aquarius, and I'm an Aquarius. So I was like, okay, well, I have to go outside into the moon at least at some point before I go to bed, take a little moon bath, feel a little cleansed, do a little smudge, and I go back inside. And, you know, and it's just like, do what works for you, man. Yeah. And I feel like there's something to it, really. Things have power if you believe in them. So
do you ever think about, because I know you said earlier, like I have two things actually, that we as humans have gotten so far from being human, like because we don't spend enough time outside, because we don't see the stars, we forget how small we are. Like, is that part of your kind of, because it's so much of what I read now, and so many different people are saying like we've lost like the connection to the moon will make you feel different ways, waxing and waning and full and
they've done studies on that.
Right.
Like it affects other things on the planet. Why wouldn't it affect us?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Like I know I can tell you basically the moon cycle by my moon. Like I'm also moon and I'm a celestial worshiper. Yes. But yeah, like I always know like during the full moon, I got to do this and I got to do that because it will help me kind of feel better. And,
absolutely.
You know, it's like reminding myself of the kind of natural instinct of a human being that we did for
millennia.
We're still not sure how long.
Yeah, exactly. Time
depending
immemorial.
on who you talk to.
So, yeah. As long as it's not a creationist, it'll be, you know, thousands and thousands of years, not 8,000 years. But no, I truly believe that there's something to that. There's something to be said for that. Because we do live in a world now that is so connected to, it's just connected. You're wired. You're on technology all of the time. I say this as we're on a podcast, but but like realistically, I mean, we remember a world where that wasn't the case. You know, we're old enough to remember that back in the day. I remember actually, like, I had to explain a floppy disk to some kids that I was the manager for a few years ago. I was like, no, that save icon was a physical thing. We had to put into, oh God, Google it. But no, I think there really is something to be said for, we don't spend enough time outside. We don't spend enough time grounding and connecting with nature. And it really, it takes away, I think we're more connected than ever, but we're so disconnected at the same time. Because when you're just looking at a screen, you're becoming desensitized to other people. That's why we have people who are just fucking trolls, you know, and they don't think about the humanity on the other side, you know? And it's painful to see that because it's like we all have more in common than we don't, truly, at the end of the day. And I think, and I'm guilty of, I commute to work. I'm guilty of screaming at people I mean, I do it while I'm in my car. I'm not like road raging like a crazy person. Really, they can't see me or hear me. It's fine. And it's not all the time. But at the end of the day, we all get lost in this hustle and bustle, and especially in places like the Bay Area or any major city, really, is because we're always on the go and we're always like, we got to be hustling. And I'm guilty of this too. I, for a long time, wasn't taking enough time to really be outside. I was caught up doing the admin stuff for my jobs. And then one of my other jobs is animal control, which, and some of it is great. It's wonderful when we get to rescue things and have that be, you know, a happy ending. But then you also have to desensitize yourself a little bit, even in that work. So I think if people really spent more time outside and also respected nature more, because people started going to national parks and all of these places during COVID and would just trash them. And it's like, we're all part of nature, y'all. Like, this isn't, that microplastic from that shit that you just threw out is going to end up back in the ocean. It's going to end up in a fish. You're going to eat the fucking fish. Like, it's not even that, all, like, you know, it's, that's the most basic way to put it, but
Well, I just got like this whole flash of there was one day right after, I don't know if it was even a holiday weekend or just a really hot weekend. And I walk Crown Beach almost, I mean, a couple of days a week, probably. Like on the beach, I get my feet in the sand, you know, but like walking after a day when it's been like crowds of people.
Oh my gosh, it's
the
so
amount
bad.
of stuff that's on that beach is unbelievable. Or even sometimes when it's not super crowded and there's like families playing and I'm picking up kids' toys that are starting to go out in the ocean. I'm like, you brought this here, bring it home with you.
Yes.
Like even if they just like pack in, pack out, but it's like, who do you expect is going to clean up after you? Like, why do you expect someone else is going to go get that? Like, toy that you left down by the water. Oh, you're just going to let it wash out into the bay? Like, why do you think that's something that you're entitled to do?
It's just, it's wild to me to see it. And I think it's something that comes with people being so desensitized and thinking that we're not connected to nature. And it's like, well, no, I mean, like, we study animals in the ocean as barometers of like what's going to happen to us on land. You know, like these are very real things. One of the places I volunteered, they study elephant seals. It's basically a biology lab for UC Santa Cruz and UCSF. And they put these transmitters to get all this information from these elephant seals because they go on these super long migrations. And so they're detecting, you know, temperature changes and other levels of all the other shit that we put in the ocean. And it's concerning. It's not irreversible at this point, but yeah, I think that's a big part of why I want to keep in this education sphere, because I don't understand how people don't understand that we're so connected. It's mind blowing.
And this, you opened it up to the perfect second thing I had a moment ago.
Nice little segue.
Do you think that, because I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about how they think maybe, or like one guy's theory is that the sharks are starting to attack people more, just not because they want them to eat them, but like they're like, get the fuck out of my way. Like, because people come, fish leave. So like, are the sharks really actually just warning people like, hey, you're not supposed to be in my backyard?
I mean, that.
And I thought it was such an interesting.
That is a really interesting theory. Because I love sharks so much. They scare the shit out of me, as they should, but nobody wants to be at the bottom of the food chain, right? Because we didn't evolve that way. We don't have, massive claws and teeth and all these things. And I always think the term shark infested waters is so funny because it's like, well, it's like saying human infested land. Like that's where they live. So, I mean, I really wish I just to like piggyback on that theory. I think that would be really cool. I mean, they're dinosaurs.
Right.
They've evolved to stick around this long.
They're older than trees.
They're older than trees. People. They're, like the white shark has evolved, or more commonly called the great white shark, but it is the white shark, has evolved in a way that like it's literally been around for millions of years. And so I think part of it is too, there's more people on the planet. And so there's more of us in the water in that way than there used to be as well.
Right.
But also, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, I think some of the instances are from juvenile sharks. Like we see a lot of that along the central coast here because there's a rookery or two around like Monterey, Santa Cruz area. They haven't found it exactly where it is.
What's a rookery?
Yes, unpack for your day. So a rookery is like a breeding ground.
Okay.
And so that's generally used in terms of fish as well as like marine mammals.
My listening conversations, whatever that word is, figured out what it was, but I wanted to make sure I was right. Yes. I was thinking like nursery, like
So essentially that
breeding grounds. But like even if you look, not to cut you off, but like even if you look at the orcas that were like,
I was all about that. Like, I was like, eat the rich, bitches.
Right, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like the same thing. Like the orcas were like, hey, stop coming around here. I'm gonna sink your boat.
Yeah.
So you'll stop coming. Like are the sharks being like, hey, I'm going to bite your leg so you'll stop coming in the water?
I mean,
because it clears people out.
It does clear people out. And they put up the signs and it's like, oh, well, can't be in the, I mean, you're at your own risk. Like they've done studies though too, like you can be anytime you're in the ocean, you're generally speaking, even if you're fairly close to shore, you're probably not further than, not to freak anybody out, but you're probably not any further than like maybe 50 feet from a shark. Because it's their house, but we're not their natural source of prey. So it's not an immediate, a lot of times it's just mistaken identity. And they're like, this is too bony or this is not, this doesn't taste right.
Well, that's what this guy was saying, that it's not like that. They know the different, they were like, they're what was he?
What kind of sharks were they?
I forget. Well, they were just talking about sharks in general. And he was saying like, they are basically like a, it's not monitoring system, but like a
warning system?
Well, like they sense everything.
Oh yeah.
Like he's like their senses are amazing. So it's not like they're being like, oh, look at that person on a floaty, looks like a seal.
Yeah.
They're like, that person is in my way and now there's no seals. So I like the guy was talking about it and I was just like so interested. And I was like, funny. And then I was like, I feel like I should call Chris and be like, so Chris, can you come on and teach me more about sharks? Our friend Chris and coworker.
I really want to go cage diving with him.
Yeah, he's a shark diver and he's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
When I went snorkeling in Hawaii a couple months or 2 years ago now, we went out with like this random guy we met at a bar.
It sounds safe. Let's go.
There's a few.
We've all done it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we were out in this like cove that he took us out, and Maddie and I were in the water, and Maddie has been scuba diving and snorkeling all over the world.
Oh, wow, okay.
We were snorkeling, and I have been only a handful of times.
Yeah.
This dude never asked us if we were like good swimmers or anything like that.
My God.
No. So he just gave us our snorkel mask. We jump off the side of his sailboat, his catamaran.
Love it.
So at one point I look up and the boat was gone.
Oh,
and I'm over by rocks and I look up and Maddie's swimming into shore and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. And so I start like put my mask back on. I'm like going to swim back. And all of a sudden I got this overwhelming fear of like, I can't see behind me.
Oh,
like I normally have that because I can't move my neck like that. But then I was like, I can't see, like, I don't, no one
Yeah.
is near me. And like, if
Yeah.
something came up to eat me right now and I like had to like come back
Yeah.
up from the air and like take a few deep breaths and be
Yeah.
like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like there's not a shark here. And I was like in my head thinking, you don't know that there's not.
just gonna swim calmly.
Yeah.
Because that's the key too, though. If you start thrashing around, well, then you seem like you're something that's prey
Right.
because you're struggling, and then it's all bad. Yeah, I had an experience not quite like that. It was actually at Ocean Beach many moons ago. At Job Corps, being a dumb 17-year-old. But we were out at the beach. There might have been some beers involved. But there was this really hot guy from Hawaii. He's like, oh, come on, I'll teach you how to body surf. I'm like, okay. And that was a horrible Hawaiian accent. Sorry. But he was like, okay, sure. And Ocean Beach is known for rip currents, and it's also freezing. And I think this was early in the year. So it doesn't matter what time of year it is. It's pretty
cold.
fucking cold. And I also had a one-piece black bathing suit. Okay. So all of this leads up to the fact that I'm then thinking we get way out. And then all of a sudden, that's when my brain decides to remind me that just the week before there had been a shark bite incident
God.
at Ocean Beach. And I can feel myself being pulled opposite. I'm like, okay, I had to calm the fuck down or I'm going to drown. I had to get back to shore because you just have to swim with the rip current or that's when you get pulled out. So it's like, thank God I remember that. But no, the last time I really enjoyed swimming in the ocean was Hawaii. It was in Oahu a few years ago. But I wasn't as worried then.
Yeah.
But you can see if something's coming up on you in Hawaii, unless you can't turn your neck.
Yeah, well, and like you can't see behind you. So when you turn when you're swimming towards the beach and you have that whole ocean behind you, like there's no, like you can barely see to your left and right, even with the working neck.
Well, because you have
the goggles on. You know what I mean?
That's true. You're like, okay.
And I grew up like in Jaws country.
Oh, that's true.
So
and now
like,
they're coming back over there too.
Oh yeah. Like when I was young, after I saw half that movie, I was not allowed to see it all. I think I started, and my parents were like, no.
I remember my dad's apartment complex at the time. When I first saw Jaws, I think I was like, oh God, it was maybe like 6 or 7. And because my dad loved to show me all the movie scene, was like, let's see what happens before I send you back to your mom's house. And so like, I just remember his apartment complex pool, the light was out in the deep end and I knew how to swim, but we're like, oh, we'll go swimming at night because it was super hot outside. And I just remember not understanding, obviously there's no shark there because I'm 6 or 7. And it's like, I don't want, he's like, what's wrong, kid? And I was like, no, it's good. I'm just gonna backpedal over here. No, thank you. Scarred me.
My Uncle Stan told me I was okay in pools for a while, and then my Uncle Stan and my Uncle Pat convinced me that sharks could get into the pools because they were all connected into tubes, and the sharks could get into the tubes. And then they also told me at one point I wasn't
like
even
deep blue sea, bro.
Yeah, and then they were like, no, you can't even take a bath, really. You even have to be like, and then they were like, tubes also connect to the toilet, so you never know. I mean, my uncles were terrible human beings. No, they're not great human beings. Terrible uncles.
They messed you up.
Oh yeah,
that's too
they
funny.
used to like. Oh yeah, terrible.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I think it's natural though. That's a normal human instinct to be scared of something that not only can kill you, because another human can kill you, but like can kill and eat you.
Yeah, just swallow you.
Yeah, that's the part where you're like, and so yeah, I mean, like sharks are one thing. And they definitely scare the shit out of me more than like bears though. And I've encountered bears in the wild. I'm not scared of bears really. Again, I haven't encountered a grizzly, so that's a different story. Black bears, generally speaking, are fairly like, they don't really want much to do with you. They're scared of us.
Those are the bears that you like make yourself big in front of, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so one of your other jobs that you've been doing besides like the camp and has been your
animal control. If you guys ever watched the Joel McHale show, it's almost like that. I'm just kidding. It's not quite like that. But there are parts of it. Yeah, a little bit.
What's been your like craziest stories so far? I'm guessing it's a lot of like raccoons and possums and skunks, but
there are a lot of those. But it also depends on the situation that you find them in, or how that works, or how you have to get them out. Actually, just a couple of days ago, actually this last week was really good. I got to return 3 animals to the wild, which doesn't usually happen. So it was really great. Because, unfortunately wildlife management in general is meant more for humans' comfort as opposed to what's convenient for animals. And that's just part of it because humans are everywhere and we've got to control everything. But no, this last week I think it was Saturday. We call them Opos, but an opossum, was sitting on top of a car engine block. So I work in San Mateo County.
Okay.
And so this was down at Tamfran Mall, and there was a Hyundai dealership, and this opossum was just chilling on top of the engine block. But the way that they described it was it's stuck in there. And I was like, well, if it's at a dealership, like, don't they have mechanics? Like, they can fucking take the thing apart. What do y'all? Okay. So I get there, and the guy who called is this big man, like 6'6", doesn't like look like he played basketball once upon a time. He's not a small dude, and not playing in a gender stereotypes that like you should have to be able to do something because you're a dude. However, I always find it a little bit funny when I show up and they're like, oh my God, you just handled that. So it turns out this opossum was just like sitting on top of the engine block. Wasn't even facing me. And so I'm like, okay, well, it should be pretty easy. And it doesn't look sick or injured. So I brought the cage with me just in case I needed to take it into our wildlife center. And so I just like went for it, and I just went and grabbed it gently. And they do have some they have gnarly teeth, but they don't carry rabies. Mm-hmm. They are really way more scared of you than you are of them. They don't actually really, really try to bite you. They just show their teeth and like hiss to make themselves look scary.
Right.
And so I went and I just picked it up. The guy's like, oh my God. And so then I picked it up. I had it by its tail, which they're prehensile. So also, again, it was fine. Just to reiterate that I'm not harmed. There were no animals harmed in this situation. And so it was really, I was like, oh, I'm going to put it in the cage. And it was really like fighting to not go in the cage. I was like, all right, buddy, you seem fine. So I just like, I'm carrying it by its tail. And this guy's just like, oh my God. And I set it down and it went off into the bushes and it was fine. So that was one. I wouldn't say that was the craziest though. I once spent 3 hours getting 6 ducklings out of a storm drain. Oh, they all got out though, so it had a happy ending. They went right back to mama.
You made way for ducklings.
I did make way for ducklings. I had to call Public Works to like lift up the wrought iron grates because like my tools in my truck weren't going to do it. And it turns out it wasn't just like a one-sided storm drain that had fallen into. It was a storm drain that went underneath the street and then ended on the one side. So they were running back and forth across. So at first I thought it was like, oh, I see there's 3. Oh, there's 4. Okay, there's 5. And this is after I'd gotten a couple of them out. Right. And so mama and the other ducklings were chilling in a bush right nearby. So I was able to just like, boop, just pop them back in every time I got one of them out. And so then the last 2 just took forever. And I was like, oh my God, they're not going to come out. I was really bummed out. And I had put the grates down. And because I was like, I looked up on YouTube, like duckling chirps, because they kept chirping back and forth to the ones in the bushes. So I was like, well, if I hold it to this one side, maybe I can, call them over. And so it stopped working. And I thought they had gone down the other way and they're running down the other street now at this point. I'm like, fuck. So they're not back. So I go and drop the grates, and it's me, the woman who reported it, and another woman who was there, who was her neighbor, who turns out is actually a volunteer at the shelter. So nice. I was like, I thought you looked familiar. Like, okay. So one of the grates luckily didn't go all the way back into the ground and was still like hanging out like an inch above. I was like, okay, well, I'll leave it up like that in case for whatever reason we needed to lift it up again. As soon as we dropped that one, all the way down, I was like, son of a bitch. Guess we got to lift this thing back up. So we go and we lift it back up when I was able to get the rest of them out. So that was one of the ones where I'm like, it took 3 hours and my knees were bruised and it wasn't from anything fun, but I did a good thing. So that was really cool. And yeah, so I've had a few that have been really awesome where I get to release things back in the wild. I had a bat I got to release back in the wild last week too. So I pick up everything.
Where did you pick up the bat from? In someone's house? Or?
No. So it was in an apartment complex's like stairwell.
Oh.
So it was up in like the skylight. And so luckily it didn't have any contact with a human or a pet or anything. Because if it did, just per county regulations, it's got to be taken and tested for rabies. And unfortunately, there's only one way to do that, and it is not one.
How do we not have a better way yet?
Because they haven't bothered, which is so shitty. It's so shitty. I don't even want to tell listeners what it is because it's not pleasant. Google it. Yeah, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to talk. Google it if you really want to know. I don't want to talk about it.
I'm already crying.
It's rough, and so that one is tough. I honestly, I wasn't like planning on going to animal control. I really did just apply because I was looking for a job as my job with, East Bay Regional Parks was ending last summer. And I remember when they called me and I looked up, I was like, fuck the peninsula. I really don't want to commute that far. And they called me again. I was like, all right, well, maybe it's a sign. I'll get some hands-on experience. I mean, I deal with all types of wildlife. I work with, clearly, I mean, bats. I have dealt with skunks, knock on wood. I still haven't gotten sprayed.
Vagisil.
What?
If you do get sprayed, Vagisil. Or douching.
Yes, like the very ASMR Vagisil answer to that.
You're not sponsored, but yes. Apparently, one of my aunts lives up in New Hampshire, and they live out in like the rural area of New Hampshire, and their dog all the time is not.
Oh no!
Yeah, so she used to send her boys down to buy stuff. And I love Aunt Noelle. She'll show up on the podcast at some point.
Oh, I love it so much.
She is hysterical. She's one of my favorite people. And she would be like, sending her kids down to buy it. And she just...
Now I have learned something new today. I always thought it was...
City Girl taught you something.
I know. I'm amazed. I always thought it was tomato juice and white vinegar was the
I have heard that apparently douching it is much better.
Oh, well... Good to know. Good to know for future reference. Hopefully that day never is necessary.
Well, at least now you have different options.
Now I have different options.
If the tomatoes
varying
and
options.
the
this is true.
vinegar doesn't work.
This is true. Yeah, I will keep that in mind. Hopefully I don't encounter that. But watch. Now I said that I'm going to get a skunk on my next trip.
Oh, no.
No, they've been really good. I feel like there is something too to be said for, and I give Steve Irwin the credit for me growing up watching this, but like talking to the animals, like while you're getting them. And I'm sure sometimes people who are observing me do this. Cause I mean, I pick up raptors, like hawks, falcons, things like that, owls, things that could really fuck you up.
Yeah.
I have yet to deal with a bobcat. We don't deal with mountain lions. That's California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Yeah, that's a little bit too big for us. But I do deal with bobcats, coyotes. Coyotes, I haven't had to bring one in yet because it's like if it's still mobile enough to run away from me, like what the fuck am I going to do? I'm not going to chase it. It's living here. It's urban wildlife. The amount of things that people call about that are like, oh, well, there's this here. And it's like, okay, does it look sick or injured? Yeah. Is it bothering you? Is it bothering anybody? Is it your animal coming to No, it's here. Okay. You live in fucking Woodside with a mini mansion and a huge yard. Like, there's animals in the woods. It's called Woodside, friend. You live in the hills. Oh my God. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting ride. And, they have you do like 2 interviews, as most places do, but in both of those interviews, they make sure because it is attached to a shelter and it's not a no-kill situation. Right. And there are things where they will humanely euthanize animals or wildlife that we bring in if there's not a good prognosis, which is really, that's the part that's such a huge bummer. And that's the part where you kind of have to like detach yourself from it, which is also tough. And so this is not a job that I plan on doing forever because it's really rough.
I would imagine burnout is
it's not easy. And like I've had people ask me why I don't want to be an animal control officer. Because what I do is animal rescue and control assistant. Okay. So I not pick up the slack, but like for the wildlife calls. So because they mainly deal with like domestic animals and we cover the entire county. So that's a pretty vast area. And so wildlife and like deceased stuff. And that is all, I mean, it's nothing about it is not like somewhat emotionally taxing.
Right.
But I was like, tantalizing fact of having like benefits with a job, being in the industry for so long where you don't have those things and you're like, oh, this seems great. But then I'm like, to what end though?
Right.
And I comfort myself in knowing that there are some animals that we do get to save or make, end of life a little bit better possibly, but it's also it's really tough. It's like sometimes I wish people wouldn't call. I'm like, can we just let nature do what it does? And this animal is more stressed out for me showing up than it seemed to have been before I got here. And so in any of those cases, that's why I just try to talk to him. I'm like, hey little buddy, I know it's scary, I know you're stressed out. So when people are like in my space while I'm trying to do, I'm like, hey, like you're not only stressing the animal out more, you're kind of stressing me out. Like, you just like, remember a few years ago we had to be 6 feet from each other? Like back the fuck up, dude. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I would imagine that intention is like the same, like when you learn about like equine therapy, like the horse knows way more about you than you do because they can sense it all. Like
Absolutely.
I'm sure that like goes across most animals. Like, you know, when people are like, oh, animals like you. Yeah, because I'm chill. And I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? I want to be their friend. Like,
exactly.
I'm probably more like, I want to come pet you, but I won't.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And so I think that helps calm them too, because again, it all goes hand in hand with being in connection with nature. And I think, you know, and it's a bummer because I don't even have any pets. I'm a plant mommy though. But I have a lot of plants. But I grew up with animals, and I think there's something to be said. Like, they have souls too, you know, and generally speaking, we as humans don't think of wildlife in that same way as we do with our domesticated animals, which is insane. Because our domesticated animals come from what were once wildlife. And it just, it's really important, I think, because you're respecting another living creature. And I don't know, that's just kind of a very like almost kind of Buddhist way of looking at it, but really like we're all connected. And I think it says something about a person if animals don't like you, then I might have some issues with you. But I think too, it just really, because, you know, if there is such a thing as reincarnation, right, and you come back and you're learning that lesson or whatever it is, you know, I think there's just something to be said for just treating everything with kindness.
Right.
So.
And I still am like, I'm not attached to any of my like beliefs, but like some of the things I like to kind of believe in is like, I believe in reincarnation. I think like, obviously like energy can't be dispersed. So like it has to go somewhere and souls are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're getting all into it.
We're going to get
like,
really metaphysical with
it.
But
I also think animals teach us things.
For sure.
And people teach us things. So if both things are teaching us things, how do we know that that's not a soul that like came back as like not like human life is hard. So maybe like that soul opted to be like a domesticated cat or like a bobcat or a crow.
I wouldn't be mad about it if I came back. If I came back as a domesticated animal that was like really had a great owner, you got a lush life, you can just chill at home. You got somebody who feeds you, somebody who loves you. Yeah,
like,
man. That's
you know,
life.
like I kind of like when people say like we pick our families, we pick our journeys. Like I kind of think that might be something to that. Like where we get to come back as often as like maybe we want, and like you get to experience different things. So you can be like, nah, this time I want to go be a a butterfly, or I want to be a raptor. Like, you know, fuck it. I'm going to go back for a year to be I don't know what lives to be a year, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I think something, you
get
get
a nice
to like,
little short lifespan, just live it and be done.
You're like, oh, all like the rest of my kind of crew that I normally like rebound with is all in different phases, and I happen to have a short phase this one, so I think I'll go back and be you know, like I'm gonna go be a lion for 3 years, and then I'll, you know, like I think that's kind of like a cool way to think about it.
Absolutely.
Like, and I'm one of those people that I'm always talking to the animals. Like when I go for walks, I'm always like, hi baby, look at you eating, you know, like
all the time. All the time.
I leave gifts for the crows, but I don't live in like one spot where I can really train them because I'm in an apartment complex.
Yeah. We have a friend who we cat sit for her every now and again, and she had been now, and I don't necessarily like corvids are one thing because they're also really fucking smart, and they also know that humans are a source of food, so they're here close to us anyways. But squirrels, like squirrels are really cute, but also I don't want to get bit by a squirrel. They actually have us use raptor gloves when we handle squirrels because their teeth are so nasty.
And they can carry
rabies. And fun fact, if you're ever just things to be mindful of. There are signs posted in, I believe, the Sierra and the Tahoe National Forest, like the squirrels and the chipmunks there have fleas that have been found to carry the bubonic plague.
Oh shit.
So it's not super common, but you know, it's there. They're cute, they're adorable, stay far away. Right. Although there is a guy on Instagram who has a whole following, and it's cute. And he builds like houses and shit for them.
Is that the guy that has the squirrel obstacle course? Because I love raccoons. Have you seen the dude from Canada that has all the raccoons though?
No.
So there's
I love raccoons, but they will fuck your shit up. They're so cute and they're little, but no, I don't want them at my house.
Like I've seen people that have them as pets because they like save them as babies. And I'm like, I think like that's a tiny little murderer you have in your house. Like they are dressed like a bandit for a reason.
So when we get raccoons, we have to put a carabiner carabiner on the cage because they can open them.
Yep.
And so when we get them on a catch pole, we have to put it like it's a seatbelt because they can just take it off because they have little hands.
Yeah.
So I do still wonder about the first animal control officer who figured out they could open a cage because somebody had to be the reason they put a carabiner on it. And
Right.
like, oh, by the way.
Oh, well, even so growing up when we like in Boston, raccoons were like a huge problem. Like we used to have huge raccoons that looked like toddlers.
Oh my.
And like you would bungee.
Massive.
Yeah, they were huge because they had no real predators because they were in the
Yeah.
city. At that time we didn't have coyotes. Now
Yeah.
Boston has coyotes too. But they would and they were like ballsy. Like you would pull into your driveway and they'd be like on your
Just waiting for
garbage
you.
can. I heard that
I
one.
love it. I love it when you talk about home. When you talk about home.
They'd be on your trash can, and like you'd bungee it, and they would
Yeah.
just pull the bungees off and be like, "Look at me, motherfucker!" Like, thanks for the ribs. Like
Dude,
you'd come home and
yeah.
your trash would be all over the place because they were like just
That's
feasting,
nuts. Yeah. Oh
and
my
you'd have
God.
like whole families of them.
They're really smart. They're super cute. But yeah, no, I actually got a really grumpy one out of a dumpster the other day. Yeah, very unhappy with me. But I was like, I'm helping you. You're too little, and you climbed in here, but you obviously can't get yourself out. And I'm sure you'll be fine just getting trash bags thrown on top of you for the next few days. But if you can't get out before it's trash day, then
you're getting smushed.
Yeah. So, and also then you're just going to be in there like pissing off the people who are going to throw their trash out.
Right.
But
There's a guy in Canada that
yeah.
has pets, like, and there's a picture, there's videos of him sitting down with like hot dogs, and there's just like 40 to 50 raccoons coming in.
God.
They're climbing on him.
No.
He's like hugging them and like giving them food, and
Dude.
it's like insanity.
They're
like,
so cute, but that's too much.
just
much.
watching it, like
They will
part of
tear
me is
you
like,
apart.
I want to be in there, and part of me is like, they would eat me. Like,
Yeah, 40 is too many. No.
I hope
That's a gang, bro.
There's a gang.
That's a gang.
I will post this video when this episode comes out. Like,
We used to have ones. So I lived on Treasure Island again as an adult. I moved back there in 2015 to 2018. I lived there. And not a Job Corps because I had aged out. No. But also, no, just on the other end of the island with my boyfriend at the time. And the raccoons there they're smart. They know when it's trash day. And I more than once would see them like stand on each other's shoulders to knock over the trash cans. And I'm like, no joke. They're hella smart.
Yep.
But yeah, exactly why I wouldn't want like a whole gang of them in my house. Skunks, on the other hand, if you got the gland taken out, now they're illegal to have in California because they are a weasel. They're like ferrets. You can't have them. But they're super cute. They're really fucking cute.
ferrets illegal in California? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, ferrets are illegal in California. They're legal in Oregon and Washington. And also like all weasels, because skunks are weasel, they just stink more than other ones do. But ferrets also, all weasels fucking smell. Yeah. They smell so bad. They're
I had
super
a friend
cute, but
that
they
had
stink.
two, and they were so cute, but his house always stunk.
Oh yeah. No, there was a girl I went to school with in Washington, and they had a separate room for their ferrets because they're just like, they had their whole little setup. They had little like, the little tunnels and shit set up all over the room. It was their little space, but they're like, no, we don't let them out of the room, dude. I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you put them on their little weasel leash and take them out or whatever.
I've heard that skunks, though, are good pets once you get the gland taken out.
Yeah. And they're really, really cute. But yeah, no, and especially if it's a fresh spray, that smell is gnarly.
The girl, I don't know if she still comes in.
Vagisil.
There's a girl that used to come into Fireside who had a pet rat.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen her. I've heard about her though.
She's got a snake and a pet rat, and sometimes she would be having both of them, which I always never understood because wouldn't the snake eat the rat?
Maybe they're homies.
Apparently, and like the first time it popped its head out of her fucking shirt, I almost had a heart attack.
Wait, she had a rat like just in her shirt.
She had like in her like hood of her sweatshirt.
Oh, I mean,
and her hair was long, and like it just kind of popped out.
Oh no!
And he popped out, and I was like,
bitch.
I'm like, there's a, and she was like, oh, get back in there. And she just like, and I was like,
also you're bringing a rat into a bar, bro.
I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like,
oh no.
It's a white rat, and it has the red beady eyes. And she's like, oh, it's such a good pet, and I don't even have to put him on a leash anymore. And I was just like, I have no
if
idea.
With a rat on a leash. No, man. I mean, there's something for everybody, and I'm sure she'll find her soulmate. I'm not judging. I'm single, but like, ma'am.
I am judging, and I'm single. And you know what? She
Okay,
almost
I'm judging
always
some
had a
of it.
man. She almost always had a man.
That's
which
wild.
makes it even more wild. Bitch has a,
There's something for every dude. If furries exist, there's something for everybody.
this is
okay?
very true. This is very true. You know what I've always wanted is a flying squirrel.
They're so cute.
They are so cute, and like I would have a pair of them so that they would have friends.
Yeah.
But I have like a thing about getting them because like you really shouldn't have them in the house.
Yeah.
Like they should be free.
They should
but
be free.
if someone's gonna
I have mixed feelings about
raise
people having
them-
birds too. Yeah, same thing. It's a
Yeah.
because I mean, some of them are domesticated and they won't survive
Right.
out in the world because they've been bred a certain way for so long. But like tropical bird, like macaws and shit, like
Yeah.
nah, I feel bad. No, they should be outside.
yeah, I have to
They
say
should be in
like
a jungle.
I want them in my house. I want to have all the animals, but when
Oh,
I work
yeah.
too much, and two, like I feel
Yep.
bad about it, and like it's my same kind of complicated feelings about zoos.
Mhm.
Like I love a zoo
is
because
fair.
I want to see the animals, but
Mhm.
like then I feel guilty that I'm part of the reason why those animals are in jail.
Yeah, yeah, and that's been over the many decades of the existence of zoos. They have transformed a lot of them. Definitely not all of them,
No.
but a lot of them are actually focused on conservation and they are actually doing good work.
Right.
That being said, yes, there's still a lot of really shitty ones. I appreciate the fact that as sad as I am that we won't have any more elephants at the Oakland Zoo, that they have now, because they're social creatures,
Right.
and they only had the one left, and her longtime partner had been shipped off to a different like rehabilitation thing because they're both really old. And so, I mean, they noticed that she wasn't eating as much anymore
Right.
and all these things. And so they just recently sent her off to go be with the
good.
partner that she'd been with for a long time. I was like, oh, see,
I
like
bet
having
you should,
empathy
like,
for the
rebound.
animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, like especially creatures like elephants. Like, I mean, they're emotional and empathetic enough. They hold funerals. Like, they're so smart.
Yep.
And so yeah, it's mixed feelings about zoos. And then you have places like the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is vastly important to conservation. Helps, bring back like the sea otter population and things, because humans destroy our own habitat, and so hunted otters and things to almost to extinction.
Yep.
And so it's a double-edged sword. Some of them serve a really important purpose. A lot of them are really shitty, sadly, because I've seen some where I'm just like, how does this place exist?
Yeah.
Like, the animals are clearly neglected. There's just something really off. Then you feel icky about it.
Yeah.
'cause you
Or
think
like the enclosure is not even like
Yeah,
enriched
it's
or anything
definitely
like that.
not-
Or it's like
yeah.
this room. It's like
Like, I remember, I think the last time actually I went to the San Francisco Zoo was prior to that tiger getting out. And that was like a long time ago. It was like 15, probably more than that. It was a long time ago. It was well before you moved out here.
Yeah,
But
I don't remember that story.
There was no. I'm thinking back because you wouldn't remember it. But it was during Christmas. So there was a tiger. So all the enclosures were not built to standard at the San Francisco Zoo for a long time. So basically, I remember the last time I went there. This is almost 20 years ago. And the last time I went there, the hippo enclosure there wasn't much in the way. And hippos kill more humans than like crocodiles, lions. Hippos kill
They'll
people.
just swallow you whole.
Yeah, and they're vegetarians. They're just killing you because you're in the way.
goes back to the shark thing. Maybe it is true.
Hey, they're like, hey, dumb
The
motherfuckers.
hippos were like,
hey,
you just eat
get
them.
out of just get out of our way, bro. Like, we'll kill them, feed it to the crocodiles. It's fine. No, but like, so there were these two guys that got mauled. One of them was mauled to death because the tiger got out. Now, granted, they were throwing shit into the enclosure.
He deserved to get mauled.
I mean, the tiger went through the zoo and hunted these guys down. Like, he went past other people in the zoo, and
Because they're smart.
yeah. And so, and like you said, that's the tricky part about having animals like that in these places. And so it's tough because you want to educate people who maybe aren't going to get out into nature like that, or don't have the access to it. But then you also have, I'll check and see if this is incorrect, but from what I last read, the San Francisco Zoo actually just lost like their accreditation.
Oh, did they?
So yeah,
I don't know if
there's a lot of shit that they've been dealing with. Like there was an incident maybe like a year or two ago where one of the keeper doors wasn't fully closed on like a grizzly enclosure.
Oh, wow.
And And so the grizzly they ended up getting it back into its enclosure, but it was out and like roaming around. Like, no, I see why y'all are always hiring. No, thank you.
I feel like I know my next rabbit hole.
Yeah, here we go.
Yep.
Let me get another drink.
Yeah. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah,
today.
it has been a pretty long one.
It doesn't feel like
no,
it
it doesn't.
But I know you have stuff to get back to.
And,
I have to go do some more
yeah.
stuff. And now I have to go down a rabbit hole about the San Francisco Zoo.
Yeah.
There was one time when and I think it was a gorilla got out of the Franklin Park Zoo.
I think I remember reading that. Yeah.
It was like the weekend of a friend's wedding. It was crazy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like things got real weird that weekend. No, but I really appreciate being able to come on to onto your pod.
Yes.
And it's been a lot of fun. And I know it's been a very wide ranging discussion, but yeah, I think it covered a lot of really great topics, and it's just us having a good time and hopefully get more, especially people of color. Y'all, we need to go outside. Let's go camping. Like I really want to start organizing something with even just, not even just adults, because I do want to do stuff with kids, but like I think that would be a lot of fun and getting folks together and just people who maybe that hasn't always been your thing, like you, my dear. And we'll go. We'll start making it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, obviously people of color need like the most kind of help and support, but like mostly poor kids like me too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like my be all and end all goal is to, like I said, to have that organization, and while mainly targeted towards, Black and brown kids, but like underserved kids of all backgrounds.
Wait, you mean you don't just exclude people because of the color of their skin? How does that work?
Well, this power structure thing. You want to go for another hour?
But like that's part of what I want to help fight against is
absolutely.
like, because it just is not the way I was raised, and like especially coming from Boston, everyone's like, oh, you must be like, it's not the world I grew up in. Yeah, it existed, but it wasn't what I was taught. It wasn't what I was shown. It wasn't what kind of was modeled for me. And I want to make sure beautiful. Like more of people that look like me are modeling more of that for the other people that are assholes that look like me, and like making sure people know like it's not all of us. Like it seems like the majority right now, especially with all the Trump stuff and like all like just the hate that's going on. Like I don't understand it, and like I will combat as much as I can and like try to raise people's voices up, like you that's looking to make a difference, to do it, to like I love you, but like because you are not just doing it for your own, like you're like, oh wait, let me now reach back and grab the people that I can and bring them with me. And like I love that message. I will come camp with you more, especially if I don't have to dig a hole.
No, we don't do that here, girl.
And thanks for making way for the ducklings.
Oh, of course, anytime. And yes, I I just think it's really important to always keep that perspective of knowing, like, I'm lucky enough to have a family history where I was taught to have a lot of perspective. I was kind of forced to look at it that way. And given, the world that I grew up in the mid 90s, where it's like, there weren't as many mixed kids. There's always been mixed kids, but it wasn't, you weren't one or the other, and there wasn't as much acceptability of it as there is now. And so I think especially in this, post Obama, nobody's racist anymore because we had a black president world. I think it's really, really important to hammer at home that like we've come super far. I mean, my dad came to California on the colored car on the train, right? We've come a long, long way, but we still have so far to go. And I think that, again, connecting and showing people that, one, we're all connected to nature, and two, we have way more in common than we don't, is a huge step. And so it's one of the things I'm working towards. It's all encompassing. So
I love it. All right. And we'll post to all the things that you're doing and the places that people can help support and your future project. And we'll have you back a bunch of times, I'm sure.
I can't wait.
All right. Thanks so much, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And thank you all so much. Go out and get some nature and find some joy.